Thank you for choosing CTN. And now, it's time with Herman and Sharron.
Can you believe the guy Zoro is a world-renowned drummer, touring and recording with music legends such as Lenny Kravitz, Bobby Brown, New Edition, and Frankie Valli and the Four Seasons?
Wow.
That's back in our day.
Yeah, I was going to say, that's a little closer to us.
He is also a critically acclaimed author, life coach, ordained minister, and founder of Zoro International Ministries. He speaks to audiences worldwide on the topic of personal excellence and life purpose. And there he is. Oh, you
Hey,
just saw it. Okay.
glad to be here.
Okay, good to have you.
It's an honor to be here.
Yeah,
Thank you guys
so
for
nice
inviting
to
me.
have you.
Don't you love this look? Hey, Dave, get a shot of this. I love the way this guy looks. I mean, we met back in the green room, and Linda Opsel had a prayer meeting back there, because when she starts praying, I hope you got a lot of time. She will pray. But it was just great to meet you for the first time.
Well, you guys are so cool, and I'm honored to be here, man. And look how sharp you are, man. That's awesome. And your lovely wife.
I love his book. Look at the title, Zoro Soar. Isn't that soar? What gave you the desire to write a book like that? You have to have a burning, in the pit of the stomach, desire to get this out, because you go through agony to write a book. I mean, I can imagine, because when I have something on my mind, like if I have a show or whatever, and I want to do it a certain way. I used to do this more back when in the 90s or whatever, as a younger guy. But I remember trying to sleep, and I would have pictures of what I had to do, and I couldn't get those pictures out. I couldn't get to sleep because I was seeing things I needed to do. So when you're writing a book along with your concerts, it's got to be a nightmare every night.
You actually nailed it very accurately. It's funny, when you have a real burning desire from the Lord, you don't get a lot of rest.
Yeah.
I've kind of resigned myself to, I'm never going to have a full night's sleep for the rest of my life, but that's fine.
That's right.
Because I'm going to produce things that are important. A lot of the ideas to find the time to write soar amongst my busy schedule of my life. I'm a father, I'm a husband, I have two teenage children. So the times that I would have the best time to write, a lot of times would be, the only time I could sleep in would be like on a Saturday morning. And that would be the time I would wake up at 3 or 4 to write, because I knew, okay, I could get a good 4 to 8 hours in before I hear a peep in the house, before anybody wakes up. And then a lot of times the idea is that I would go to sleep with my laptop next to me. It's literally on, next to me, closed. Because God would give me words, and I had a desire since I was young to write motivational quotes, because when I was young growing up, I didn't have a father and I didn't have many mentors.
Did you listen to Zig Ziglar?
I listened to everybody, but I also read, I also clung on to just the power of words. And so, so very young, and then as I grew older, I said, Lord, words can change people's lives because they've changed mine. So I asked God to start downloading original ideas through me of words that I could give to people that it would inspire them. And so, sure enough, he would do that, but they would come at these random times when you're sleeping. Just as I'm drifting off, an idea would come, and I'd go, in the morning it'll be gone if I don't open up that laptop with your eyes barely open, and I would just write and type. So Soar was written through the Holy Spirit through me, but out of my obedience to wake up at crazy hours and write down the ideas and share the stories. And but that's what you do when you have a burning desire to help people, to share something with them, is you can't always wait till the convenient moment when the whole world goes away and you have quiet time, because it never happens.
Your words say, I'm living my dream. So when you were a young, just a young boy, was this, I mean, we've got his sticks on it. Was this something that, what inspired you?
Well, I kind of think of it like this, you know, what inspires any of us to do what we eventually do is that God puts something inside of you that draws you to that to begin with. So let's say you want to be, you have a desire to be a great speaker or a great teacher. The only thing that has to happen is you have to see a great speaker or teacher, and then you're drawn to that, and you see that, and you go, you identify with that, and you go, gosh, I'd really like to do that. So all I had to do was see somebody play drums or hear something rhythmic.
Do you remember the first time?
Well, I grew up in the first part of my life. I grew up in South Central Los Angeles. You know, what they call straight out of Compton.
That is.
Yeah, really.
That is not a good area, right?
Well, but for me, it was just where God had me, and I heard lots of rhythm and rhythm and blues and soul music and gospel music, and so just hearing that music immediately, like my spirit, you know, gravitated towards rhythm because God already put the rhythmic DNA in me. So whatever He puts inside of you is already there. All you have to do is just walk or cross that path where someone else is doing that, and then you go, man, I'd like to do that. So it was hearing, you know, soulful music of the 60s.
Were you a teenager then? Or?
No, I was just a kid. I was like
just a young guy.
7 years old. And
I see so many that age just banging on drums and doing so good at it.
well, they're already
so
like,
small.
now the new generation has so much more access to things.
Yeah.
You know, you can watch a million things on YouTube. And when I grew up, there wasn't any of that stuff. It was records. And a little bit of things you'd see on television.
Did you notice they're going back to the 78s?
Oh, well, the albums? Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. My daughter's 14, and she has a record player that looks like the old school
That's right.
Victrolas,
Yeah.
and she loves her vinyl. And
Yeah.
you know, like you said earlier before we started taping, you know, everything repeats itself because there's only so many ways a direction could go. You know, there's only so many ways you can wear a tie, like you said. It's wide, short, long.
Exactly.
You know, and then it all repeats itself, and then it's new again. But anyway, so the music thing was just sort of something that God put inside my spirit, and then as I heard rhythmic music, so that dream.
You have music in you, don't you?
Yeah, well, absolutely, yeah.
I mean, right now.
Yeah, it lives in me.
Yeah.
Yeah, it lives in me. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then your glass will go tripping over the Bible, and I'll get in trouble.
But I've seen that with musicians. It's like they just sit music. You know, it's like a well-designed Corvette.
Yeah.
It looks like it's going 120 miles an hour sitting still.
Yeah.
Musicians look like they're a musician sitting right here. It's amazing, isn't it?
Well, you know, everything that God gives each one of us is already deposited there. All we have to do, I look at it like a bank account, you know. The day, you know, all three of us showed up on the planet, in your bank account was already deposited $1 billion from the Lord, only in your name, but it's $1 billion of potential for you to excel in a certain area of gifting that He chose for you to have. But you must make the withdrawals all of your life. And depending on your faithfulness and your diligence and your pursuit of that talent, it's already there for you to draw out. We can never be anything that we're not already. We already are these things. It's just whether we shape them and cultivate them so the rest of the world could see it.
Try to figure out, He chose us before the foundation of the world.
That's pretty bizarre.
Try to get that into your mind and go, now what I have to do as His chosen is to make access to what He's already planned for me without going crazy, because I went down some crazy roads in my life. Did you ever have a time when you were on drugs and all this kind of stuff? I mean, you know, which is, most musicians is like, you know, look at a Ringo Starr or whatever. You know, they've gone through unbelievable lifestyles.
I think no matter if you live long enough in this world, you've gone down some wrong roads because it's the nature of man. That man is sinful. I myself never struggled with drugs because that wasn't anything that never caught me. Because I grew up impoverished with a single mother and 7 brothers and sisters. So the idea of throwing money away to anything that didn't build something seemed very wasteful to me. It wasn't even so much spiritual at that age, it was more practical. I was like, well, how am I going to build something with my life by spending what little money I've made to destroy myself? That didn't make any sense to me at all. But we all struggle with sin in some area of our life, and the bottom line is you live long enough and you realize that life has got many challenges and sometimes things that you can't foresee. But the whole point of walking with the Lord is that His grace carries you through those times. Because if God were looking for perfect people to use, He wouldn't find anybody.
Yeah.
There'd be nobody available.
Isn't it amazing how He uses the imperfect?
It is. It's very nice of Him, in fact.
It is. Praise God.
Because we don't. We go, oh,
Praise God.
That person did that. Oh, they can't be working for me. You know, but God's mercy is more than anything we could possibly understand.
You spent a lot of years in Nashville.
Yeah, I spent 9 years there, and actually just moved back to Los Angeles. I'm from Los Angeles, spent the majority of my life there. I had an excursion to Oregon for about 6 or 7 years in my teenage years, but the majority of it has been spent living in LA, and with the exception of the last 9 years was in Nashville, and then the Lord drew me back to Los Angeles like a week ago.
So how did you come to know the Lord as your Savior?
Probably, I would say through my mother. My mother had faith, you know,
Yeah.
and even my older sister would tell me that even when you were really young, before anybody could explain anything to you, you would say, you know, I know God. Or I was like really little, and I had my hands up in the air going, you know, I don't know. I felt that He revealed Himself to me super early before anybody could explain the religious part of God. I just felt there was a God, you know, and I just felt that He drew me early. I started going to the Catholic church, as my mother was from Mexico City, you know, and all good Mexicans are Catholics, you know.
Absolutely.
So I started going to the Catholic
that's your
church.
nationality?
That's part of my heritage, yeah. And then, but I got saved at a Baptist summer church camp.
Typical Baptists lead more people to Christ, and then they go charismatic.
They do, and then I went charismatic. Yeah, they lead you there, and somebody else takes you.
That one right.
They lead you there, and somebody else takes you to the supernatural.
Yeah.
But they were really good in that they've taught me the Bible, and that and I remember going to receive the Lord with the Billy Graham song "Just as I Am."
Yes.
You know, at a summer church camp. But that was like the turning point. But you talk about the dream. You know, when I was a kid, you know, eventually the dream was to become a drummer. But I had early dreams of becoming a writer and becoming a preacher and a speaker. So early on, all these things came to me in different sort of forms, but through God's faithfulness and through my participation, because a lot of people don't understand, you know, God's not going to just wave a wand and make you be what He wanted you to be without your participation. So, and that's why I wrote Soar, to teach people the life principles of what it takes to live out the dream that God already has for you. He already has this dream ordained for you, but He doesn't create robots, so you're involved, and whether the dream comes to pass or not is totally dependent upon you and Him. It's, you know, we're joint heirs with Christ. We co-labor with Him. It's Him and us. It's never just Him or never just us. It's a combination of our will and Him leading you by His Spirit, but you certainly play a role in it, because if not, then He would just wave a wand and we'd all just be whatever, but He doesn't do that. So we participate in this incredible journey of living out these dreams. He gives you the dreams, which sometimes come in a physical form, in a spiritual form. They come as an idea. It's not always like His voice saying, "Thou shalt do us this," but you get an idea. Gee, I'd like to write a book one day, or I'd like to be a drummer. And then you realize
that's a desire of your heart.
It's a desire of your heart because He put it in. So they're God dreams, but they sometimes sound like your own voice or your own idea, or someone like you might say, "Hey, you know, you're really good at that," and it'll come through your observation of a young kid, and they'll go, "Hey, he said I was good at that. Maybe I should consider doing that." And this is age irrelevant. It has age has no bearing on fulfilling dreams. I always tell people, even if you're older, whatever, you're in your 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, and you go, "Gee, I always wanted to do this, but I missed that ticket. I'm not going to be an athlete now. I'm 80. Oh, that's fine. It's time to dream a new dream that's age and season appropriate, because God knows what things we missed, but He also knows what new things He has awaiting for us that aren't too late to learn. Maybe you were a drug addict or a crackhead for 30 years and you ruined your life and family, but now you're out of it. Now you can use your life and your story to help other people avoid that pitfall. So it's never too late to dream new dreams that are age and season appropriate.
Do you enjoy preaching or playing drums? Which one?
All of them. I enjoy preaching, teaching, speaking, writing books, playing drums. They're all just different expressions of who God made me to be. I don't enjoy one more than the other. Like, I enjoyed writing this book so much. I enjoyed taking a paragraph and then reshaping it and reforming it and having 10 people read it until it becomes succinct, concise, powerful thing to where even one sentence in it is enough to change someone's life.
You that are watching need to get a copy. This, because I read the books, and either they're a kind of book you want to read or one that you just kind of go through very quickly. This one you want to read. Let me tell you about the chapters. Life principle number 1, surrender. And he gives a whole example. Each one, instead of chapters, he has like 9 life principles. Surrender, 1 life. Number 2, discover. Number 3, dream. Number 4, strategize. Number 5, pursue. Number 6, believe. Number 7, bend. Number 8, embrace your individuality. And life principle number 9, impact, make a difference. And all of these must have had them someplace in your life where you could develop this idea.
I've lived them out. I've lived out each one of these principles and continue to live them out in pursuit of the newer dreams. Because once you accomplish a dream and fulfill a dream, whatever, let's say you win an Olympic gold medal, okay, you've done it, that dream is done, so now what? So there's always something new. So these aren't one-time principles. These are principles you live out through your whole life in order to keep expanding the vision of who God made you to be. In other words, principle number 8 is just be, which means be yourself. Be the person that God created you to be in the unique way that he created your life. He tells a story through your life, through your cultural background, through your family, through your experience, through where you grew up. But you're never going to succeed and fully be what God put you on this planet to do by trying to be somebody else. You have to be you and embrace all of the uniqueness of you, good, bad, and ugly.
Nobody can be you as good as you.
Absolutely. And if you try to be somebody else, you'll always be number 2 because that person already exists.
You just mentioned number 8, a life principle, and you say life is a symphony. God is the composer.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's kind of something the Lord gave me, is that, you know, he is the master composer, and it's almost like he gives everybody a secret melody that's only your melody, and only you can hear it, but only you can sing it as well. So it cannot come out through anybody else because each person's life is like a secret melody, and we're all a musician. You know, we're all musicians in a sense, because it's like if you're in an orchestra, and this is the walk of faith that I'd love to share with people. It's like you're a musician in the orchestra. It's a 100-piece.
That's your camera right there. Look him in the eye.
Yeah, it's a 100-piece orchestra. You're the oboe player, and you're reading the music. God is the master composer, the master orchestrator, and the master arranger. The music's all written. It's an hour piece of music. It's already there. But you're the musician reading the score for the first time in real time. You have no idea how it's going to end. The music's going to take you through all kinds of peaks and valleys and exciting crescendos and pianissimos. But he already knows the whole score. He already knows the fermatos, the holds, and how it's going to end. But you're reading it in real time, enjoying it in real time, going, oh, wow, this is a really cool piece. And you really don't know, as a musician reading the music for the first time, where it's headed. No musician who's playing a new piece of music by a new composer knows how it's going to end. Okay, so you're literally walking it out in faith, but that's an analogy that God gave me of life, is that he is that master composer, which means he wrote the song, but he's also the orchestrator and the arranger, which he assembled all the instruments to play in a certain order to create this beautiful piece of music. And we are the lucky ones that get to be in the orchestra. And if you let him lead you, and let him be the conductor, and let him be the arranger, and trust that the piece of music and the score is going to be beautiful, by playing your part, you get to be part of this amazing tapestry of this amazing orchestrated piece of music, and you get to play a significant role, whether it's a cymbal crash or a timpani roll, but you're part of the orchestra, but he is the creator, and that's how it works.
I get what you just said.
Yeah.
For a speaker, that's the crescendo.
Yeah.
I mean, really, that's the peak.
Yeah.
Because many people will say something, and you'll kind of sit there and go, okay, I probably means something, but I didn't get it. Isn't it amazing, though, how God has given you that? It's almost like a painting when you start talking, where you can actually see it develop. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. You know what I like on your chapters? This particular one, the second one, Life Principle, Discover. You were caught up by the Elvis arrangement of "I've never been to Spain."
Yeah.
And when I read that, I could hear all of his music because I'm such a fan.
Yeah, yeah.
But that caught your attention.
Yeah, well, and then at that time, this was at a talent show in the 4th grade. I did not own any drums.
Isn't that something?
I did not own any drums. We had no money, but I wanted to be in the talent show really bad. And these guys were like, well, what can you do? I said, well, I can play drums. And even though I never played drums, I just said that. And they, yeah, I just said, yeah, I can play the drums. And they were like, well, do you have a drum set? I said, no. But I've got a big refrigerator, empty box, and I can play on the box. And so I played at the talent show on just a big, like, Maytag refrigerator box. And now there's an instrument called the cajon that's like a wooden box that's probably the most popular percussion instrument in the world. And everybody's playing this cajon, which is like a box.
Yeah.
But I was playing a physical box because I didn't have drums.
God had you inventing right then.
I wish I invented the cajon. But so it just kind of goes to show that nothing can really stop you from pursuing God's vision and dream if you have a little courage and a little faith. And I love reading, and I love, there's a quote by Mark Twain that kind of sums up my life. And he said, all that's needed is ignorance and confidence, and with that, success is assured. And it sums up anybody who's done anything of noteworthy, you know, is that you're just ignorant enough to believe that, yeah, of course I can play the drums, and yeah, of course you know.
There's a lot of truth to that.
Yes.
Yeah, and you're confident, but not in an arrogant way, but you have just enough confidence and just enough ignorance. And I share many stories in the book of successful people who really fulfilled a vision or dream with that combination.
Yeah.
I mean, even the guys that created Microsoft, they said if we were just a little older and smarter, we would have realized that what we're trying to do is impossible. But because we were just ignorant enough to believe it's possible, we went for it. And so faith, there's a part of faith that's ignorant.
Talk about the impossible. You write a book on R&B drummers.
Yeah.
And you had to go, now when this gets out there in the market, they're going to go, this guy doesn't know what he's talking about. Did that ever fear you or hit you?
No, because by the time I wrote a book called The Commandments of R&B Drumming, and I had already by the time I wrote that book, I had already played with many world-renowned R&B legends.
Okay, so your name was there.
So my name was there, but all the books that I wrote, honestly, Herman, I would have rather just picked them up and read them if somebody else wrote them. Like I wrote another book called The Big Gig, which was before SOAR. And The Big Gig was a book about teaching musicians and artists how to live out your dream in the music business. But I was looking for a book like that when I was 18 and never found it. I would have bought The Commandments of R&B Drumming if somebody else had done the work and the research. Everything I wrote, I was compelled to write. I didn't write something just to write it. I didn't write SOAR so I could have a book, so I could have a platform. I wrote SOAR because the Lord commissioned me to write SOAR, because I wanted to share these life principles with people, and there's only so many one-on-one encounters I'm going to have in my lifetime where, you know, I'm a people person, so everywhere I go. Yesterday I was on the flight on the way here, and I ministered to a woman on the plane the whole entire time.
She asked what you do?
Yeah, and I prayed for her, and I gave her a copy of SOAR, and
I'm telling you, the way you dress, though, has got to help you with that.
I was a little lower key than that, but not much. But not
the guy that dresses that way is never real low.
But
key.
never
real low key.
You know, that helps people be comfortable, though, to me, to see somebody dressed a little different, say, and
it kind of opens doors.
I mean, look at this bracelet. I love this. To see that, Dave? Get a shot of that. I love that because I'm a jewelry crazy guy.
Well, see, you're like me. I mean, yeah.
There we go. Look at that. I mean, that's me. Right there.
I'll give it to you. The thing to me is, like, I've always liked fashion. My mother was fashionable. She was from Mexico City. And sometimes in the religious community, as you know, some people can frown upon you if you don't look a certain way. And I kind of go, what does the outward appearance of a man have anything to do with what a man carries in his heart?
Amen.
Your outward appearance has nothing to do with who you are. But I've been judged a lot because outwardly I don't look whatever that conservative, holy look that isn't from God, because there's no dress code in the kingdom of God except how one dresses their heart and spirit. You know, but I happen to like stuff like this, but it sometimes becomes a door opener, or the Lord will use it for me to reach people because I look like I'm from them in Hollywood. I look like I'm one of them, but I'm a secret agent of the Lord. It opens many doors, but then I'm able to share God with them. So back to the story of the woman I ministered to. So all throughout my life, I've had thousands and thousands of one-on-one encounters with people.
Wonderful.
Cab drivers, pilots, wherever, always sharing God's love and inspiring and encouraging and praying for people. But I knew that God compelled me to write a book because a book magnifies this, and the book is an extension of all the people you'll never be able to meet, because it multiplies your philosophies and the things that God gave you, and the instructions and the direction. It multiplies it by the thousands and the millions, because you'll never be able to meet all those people one by one. And so,
this will be here long after you.
Exactly. Yeah. And my ministry that I founded in 2009, Zoro International Ministries, is something that will go on long after me, because it's to teach life principles, and someone else can teach this book right now. They read it and they can start a group where they teach the 9 life principles, almost like the 12 steps.
Yes.
It was started by Christian men,
yes,
and it went on long after them, because they're principles that are easy to grasp and understand, but not necessarily the people knew them,
yeah,
and understood how they worked.
Just to let people know, you were turned down many times from publishers.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
People get the idea that, oh, his name, he writes a book, oh sure, I'll take that. But you were turned down, so you just never gave up.
If I could share one thing with people, it is that, never give up, and to walk by faith. If God gives you a vision,
yeah,
if God gives you a dream, and then you do your part, because that's the key, you've got to do your part. If God gives you a vision and a dream and you know it's from Him, then the key is to not give up. Everything that I've accomplished in my life, as a drummer, as a speaker, as a preacher, as a teacher, as an author, every one of them was met with extreme opposition. Not one of them was just like prancing down the road and then here I am. Not a single one. Auditioned for many people and got rejected before I got my first big gig. Was turned down by all kinds of publishers before my books eventually all got published. Everybody, when I was growing up in school, you're never going to amount to anything. Even teachers, you're never going to amount to anything. Yeah. The world is mostly, unfortunately, negative, and
yes,
most people
really
don't want to see you soar.
A minute and a half.
Oh, wow.
Somebody watching needs encouragement. They thought life was over for them.
Life is not over, because you're obviously watching this, so you're very much alive, and you're not dead, and you're not in the grave. So life is never. Lenny Kravitz, the artist I play with, had a song, "It ain't over till it's over." Yes. And the Lord gets the last word on this. So never count yourself out. Never count yourself out of the race, because no matter how much of the bottom you've hit, the Lord never counts any of us out until we breathe that last breath. And because He's a miracle working God, He just needs a little bit of your faith. The only thing you can give God in this life that's worth anything is your trust and your belief in Him and your faith, because everything else is irrelevant. That's the thing He responds to. God doesn't respond to need, He responds to faith. There's great need all over the world, but where He shows up is where people believe and persist and continue to believe and believe Him against all odds and against everything. And that's what I've done in my life. I'm no more special than you, than the next person out there, but I have this childlike faith that I protect, that I cultivate, that I guard, because it's this childlike faith that believes that God can do these impossible things, and then He does them. And as He instructs you and you correspond with Him in your spirit, He'll begin to show you what to do. And if you have the courage to do it, He will do His part. So it's just an agreement. He does His part and you do yours. So never give up on anything He's shown you, and don't let the disappointments of the past hold you from the future that God has.
Amen. If you confess with your mouth the Lord Jesus, believe in your heart that God hath raised Him from the dead, you will be saved. Oh God, be merciful to me, a sinner. Change my life. I receive you today. God bless you. Bye-bye.
Thank you for watching It's Time. If you have recently made a decision for Christ, Herman and Sharron would like to hear from you.